Sheila. She's a communication and connection coach, and she is also an award-winning artist, author, life and relationship, and and also a technology coach. So welcome, Sheila. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Andrea, for having me. I'm really excited. I've done a lot of different interviews. This is the first one on StreamYard.
Awesome.
And I so admire you, your authenticity, and what you're doing with relationships and everything. So I'm delighted and honored to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, no problem. Thank you so much. I also wanted to let everybody know that that you, Sheila, work with women who are struggling with like an unidentified relationship challenge, either with themselves or with other important people to them. So whether that's children, husbands, maybe work relationships, whatever it is, they know something's missing and they have a genuine interest in learning and trying new things so that they're being fulfilled. And just being able to live their lives in abundant connections with like fun, joy, ease. Is that what you do?
That's what I do. Do you want to be my spokesperson? You did that beautifully.
Well, just trying to introduce you in the best way that I possibly can.
I'll take that little clip and record it. Keep it as a separate recording.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's awesome. And I also wanted to let everybody know that you'll be sharing, the 8 important, or actually 9, you said 9, right? Important communication tips that are guaranteed to produce understanding on all sides. You know what? I'm going to let you do that. Go ahead. Tell us what those 9 communication tips do.
Okay, we were off script already.
Oh, that's okay.
No, communication is probably the most important thing we have if we want to be connected. And communication through eye contact. You'll note I'm looking at my camera. Well, that's tip number 9, but I'm looking at the camera rather than looking at Andrea. Anyway, it's just a way to be effectively communicating so you're not feeling isolated, there's not anger, intention, and you're having beautiful relationships, or at least clear relationships and communication with anybody important to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just want to remind you to have a pen and paper, or your keyboard, whatever it is, because I know Sheila's going to share a lot of stuff with us. And also, you did say that you're going to provide a link, right, at the end or in the comment section if anybody actually wants to get a hold of these 9 tips, correct?
Yes, absolutely. I will.
Okay. Yep, no problem. And so the first question I want to actually ask you is, this is a little bit of a personal question, so I hope you don't mind. But, you're in business at your age, right? I don't know exactly how old you are, but, why are you in business right now? Why are you doing this for people? And what makes you want to actually, be in business at your age and help people out the way that you're actually helping people?
Okay, so I'll be upfront. My age is 81.
Wow, you do not look 81.
Most of my friends are your age. A little bit older, my son's that family. I've always been curious. I love making discoveries. Anything I've ever done has been really people believing in themselves. So I'm challenged and energized by discovering new things and always wanting to share. And when I went back, one of the things I was in, you'll find anybody that checks me out, I have several websites, etc., with working with technology and seniors, and not the tech person. And I realized, bottom line, when I was looking at everything, that the underlying fact was connection. When my husband died, he was the thing I missed was his voice. And when I was working with a mentor who said, well, why don't you work with seniors? But I realized I want people to be able to connect. And so that's it. And just so we all can be having peaceful, loving lives.
Wow. That's awesome. So yeah, I didn't realize that you had mentioned you work with seniors. That is such an awesome thing, because I know my grandma has a very hard time with technology. She's always like, I'll get a random text from her saying like, Andrea, did you get my email? And I'm like, no, I don't know where it went, but I didn't get it. So that is really awesome. I love that you do that for people. That's amazing. And you mentioned, again, we already talked about the 9 communication tips that you'll be sharing, but what is the most important thing that you think for people to remember when communicating? What would you say is the most important thing?
You know what? I had my tips right in front of me that I wanted to I have hours, and that's interesting. Excuse me. The most important thing is this may seem strange, is to keep in mind that we are a mirror. Others are a mirror. So when we are hearing something, very often it's our judgment that's making the assessments. And one of the big key things is that you don't pay attention also when you find and you're looking at somebody you admire. Like I'm saying, it's very often a mirror of yourself. So even now when I say and I watch your videos and I'm admiring your authenticity, I'm authentic and pretty upfront also.
Right.
Forget. So when somebody acknowledges, or when you're acknowledging something in someone else, remember also that it's something that you see in yourself, even though you don't believe in yourself. Years ago, my sons gave me a plaque that said, if you could see yourself as others see you, then you'd know how truly great you are. So as you're communicating and as you're listening, what you're hearing and what you're saying, keep in mind that how it applies to you, especially the good stuff.
I love that, because I shared in a Facebook post the other day, I had walked around our neighborhood with my sister, my younger sister, and a couple of our kids. And I noticed that like so many people were out and they waved and smiled at me, or all of us. And I was just like, what makes a human do that? You know, what makes a human literally stop their yard work or like stop whatever it is that they're doing? And, you know, it was one of those like at a complete stranger. And there were a couple comments that said something like, oh, maybe it's because you were in a good mood, or, you know, maybe they've always been smiling and you just didn't notice. Some people said maybe it was the kids. And while it could be all of those things, I think you're absolutely right that it is a mirror. I was in a good space. I was happy. Things were moving along. There was nothing that was concerning me really. And I was able to like notice that other people were waving. And I was the one, you know, I also waved at other people. So I think you're absolutely right. What we say is a mirror. And would you say that even the negative patterns that we have, or the negative things that quote unquote happen to us, or things that we, you know, behavior patterns that we're in that are negative, is that also a mirror of?
Yeah, that's a good question, Andrea. It finally dawned on me. This is when my sons were teenagers, or particularly one son is very much like me. Mm-hmm. I realized a lot of the arguments, I mean, now I wouldn't criticize and judge and argue the way I do, but a lot of what I was making him wrong for were really things I was making myself wrong for. And I was seeing it in him, not owning it for myself. So that's one reason why I say be aware of what you're thinking, what you're judging, what you're saying.
I absolutely love that. You are so right, because so often when I criticize my husband for something, it's me. Like when I'll be honest, I'm not nice to him sometimes with my words. I'm very rough with my words. So I'll say something like, "You're being such an idiot." And it's usually when I'm in a place where you're absolutely right. I'm the one who feels like an idiot. I've either made a wrong choice, or I've done something that I'm not proud of, or whatever it is. And that's where the criticism comes out. And you're so right. It's because I feel like an idiot. Ooh, I love this. That's so amazing. And like your words are a mirror back to you. That's what you're saying, right?
So what I'm saying also, and you're bringing one of the tips, but since you're here at that, whenever we speak to anyone with whatever you said, you're such an idiot, I get the feeling, or I feel that you don't even have to say realizing it yourself. I feel that, or when you talk, I feel like it's, you know, it's idiotic or something like that. But it's the I. Words come from I. As soon as we say you, the person's defense mechanisms go up. Even if you said you're looking beautiful, okay. So what else is going on there? You know, I really look beautiful. Then they're staying with you and what you're saying. They're not wondering what's coming after with a defense of you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's I love that. Okay.
So go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm supposed to be fully prepared, and that's okay. One of the things that's important, not on the tips, is to be able to forgive yourself and not stay in the mess of it. And I had, of all things I don't have in front of me, it's the tips. So I'm pulling them up on my computer.
Yeah, absolutely. And while you're pulling those up, I want to ask you, like, does this help with kids too? Like parent relationship with kids?
Oh, absolutely. Anything I'm saying is very much about the kids. I mean, if kids, anything relating to anybody. So one of the things, okay, well, let's start with, we're all meaning-making machines, story and meaning-making machines. That's tip number one on my sheet.
Okay.
Usually when we listen to someone, we know what they're saying. A friend of mine who was editing this that we think we know. No, we know what they are saying. Okay, we know what they are thinking.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind anytime somebody says something to you, or even think about if your husband's an idiot. Well, what are you making that mean? You're making that mean he doesn't love you, he doesn't respect you. So even then, when you realize what meaning you're adding to it, then you can say, I feel like you're being an idiot because. And I use the word idiot. Now, I mean, even say to him, be aware of what you're saying, because I know you probably feel that, whatever it is. But be aware, and you can explain, or when I say idiot, it means when you finally realize it, when I say idiot, I'm probably thinking about that myself. As you come to understanding, when you're saying something, always communicate with your understanding. Now, for instance, I was fortunate. My husband and I, we had a wonderful marriage for 47 years before he passed away. He had Parkinson's disease. Our family is great. I'm really proud of what we accomplished, they're accomplishing. Anyway, I knew, and there's a quick story I'll tell you there, but if I would get upset, I'm jumping ahead to another thing, and we needed to do something, I would say first to him, I might cry. I knew I might cry, and if I cried, then he got upset. And I would say, I know tears might come, but what I need you to do is pay attention to what I'm saying, not my tears. So when you're aware of things like this idiot or whatever in conversation, even with your kids, you can tell them, what's going on in my head, or I'm reminded of, or whatever. Just open.
I love that. That's amazing. Yes, because I tend to fly off the handle really, really quickly and really easily at, just whatever circumstances or situations. And you're so right. I love being able to say when I'm in a good space, hey, whenever I say this or whenever I act this way, this is what I'm feeling, or whatever it is. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, pay attention to. Yeah, I love that. That's amazing.
And what, also, you can actually do a thing or make an agreement with everybody, sort of, if I'm doing something like this, just let's all say, do this, and it'll remind me, or create some kind of symbol that they can say, so there's not arguing about it. They're just giving a symbol and alerting you to the fact that you're just going off and who knows where.
I love that's great for kids too. I'm thinking of an 8-year-old. That is awesome, where he can just do that rather than getting an argument. I love that. That's amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. Are there any other tips you wanted to share?
Well, I said none. So anyway, in this meaning-making machine, you always want to check out when you realize that you're making assumptions of something. So you might say, let's say your husband called you an idiot. You just say, you know what, every time you call me an idiot, I think you thus and so. Is that correct? So whatever meaning you're adding, you need to go further, check out that that's in fact what the person said or what the person meant.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, make sure. I'm definitely going to be downloading these tips for sure. I definitely need them. That's awesome.
Anyway, and I sent them to you. Okay, so that's interesting, Andrea. I sent you the tips, but there's something in the act of communicating also. That's one reason why I offer a discovery session for people. complimentary sessions. Also, I will be doing support classes where we can go over things like this. And not only me, but people can be interacting with each other.
So this is not personal one-on-one, right? Like, is it like a group setting?
Support classes I'm going to have, but discovery sessions are one-on-one. But in the free classes I'll have just to go over some different things, people will be communicating with each other. I thrive in groups and in sharing, and in people sharing and learning from one another. So
awesome. That's amazing. And so I know, like, in our conversations, you've really mentioned that your coaching sets you apart from other coaches, right? And I've seen some of that. So, like, elaborate a little bit on what that means or what that is for you.
Okay.
Like, how are you different?
That's interesting. So what have you seen?
I've seen, first off, that you're very confident in what you know. And I'm not saying other coaches are not like that, but a lot of other coaches focus on thinking. They focus on personalized thinking of that individual. You're focusing on how this individual is communicating with everyone else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What it is,
in my attention to what you're saying.
Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm. In my experience, because I've worked with a lot of coaches in my time, most coaches seem to have some kind of plan, action, and that's fine, and it's great. What happens is I tune in, and all coaches, effective coaches, are listening and keen on that. I tune into the sometimes the unknown, what the people don't even know, and I use creative means to do that. So I have a variety of different creative ways, be it in writing or in photography, that people can discover or use for further discovery.
Awesome. Okay.
And I also bring all the years of experience from one of the oldest. I've taught, I have a whole biography. I've taught, I've done each of the technology, and mainly the technology is connecting. It's not just for seniors, it's whoever wants that can help you tell your stories. You've seen them. And you're helping me now with StreamYard. So I'm always thriving on learning and then sharing that. So.
I love that. Thriving on learning. I love that. Yeah. That's amazing. And I know that you do have some really good testimonials of people that have worked with you. Do you want to share those, or do you want me to share some of those? Because I have them in front of me.
Well, let's do that at the end. The particular one at the end, because I don't think I have that in front of me that I really. Okay. You can do the one about just helping even the questions you don't know. You can share that one.
Yeah. And so there's this, someone shared here that haven't been in a place of indecision. This is what.
Not that one. The other one. I want to end with that one.
Okay.
The one that just thanked for the help and discovered something she didn't even know. Answered questions and even the unasked ones. So
I don't think I have that one in front of me. I described one testimonial. I don't think I have that one in front of me. So why don't you share that one? Go ahead and share that one.
I don't have that in front of me. It's just what I said. It was that I've come up with the unanswered, also the unasked questions that she didn't even know she had. That's the whole thing, is questions. I answered question and came up with questions she didn't even know she had. And that's key. Okay, yeah. So my tip number 2. Anything more you wanted to ask in relation to that?
No, that's great. Nope, go ahead. You can go ahead with tip number 2.
Well, my tip number 2 is eliminating defensive responses. The coming from I came to the, fit under the first meaning making right, doesn't matter. Eliminate defensive. It's okay to be wrong, not perfect. It's
absolutely.
To discover.
Yep.
So eliminate, use the I to eliminate the defensive responses. People automatically go into defensive mode when they hear you. Always come from I. And then I elaborate on that. Or like it's simple, we discussed it, but in my simple example is you always leave the cabinet doors open. And you're and so, I get upset when the cabinet doors are open. You might add it reminded me of something or other, but just coming from you. So they're not in a defensive mode.
Okay.
When you find yourself in a conversation and you find yourself going in circles, I'm sure you've been in that,
Yes.
You've never been out, it's kind of different and blah, 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 and go on and on. When you find that, you want to stop and say, hey, wait, let's take a breather here. What's really going on?
Okay.
And in that one circumstance, I found out I was telling him something and whatever, and I agreed, if I don't tell you that, then can we go on as normal? And we did. But so you want to come to agreements and what's really going on. And if you find that what's really going on then is really upsetting to be talking about, then you're both still upset or one's still upset, then stop. Okay, let's stop now and let's set a time when we can come back and go over this, because it is important to me. Is that okay with you? And then do that.
Okay.
Again, following that is never try to resolve anything when one or more of the people involved are coming from anger or upset. It's going to get you nowhere. Always express appreciation and acknowledgement, even when you don't like anything. So I appreciate that. I like it. And I think I have it as separate, but let's fit it in with here. Another tip is always be open to learning, that you'll always learn something from the conversation. Can I go back over the conversation we had about your children or Brett said? Okay, so one of the things that I realized how important this was, and this is where I wanted to be focusing on interviews, was I had read, Andrea is wonderful in her videos and so authentic and upfront. And she mentioned her husband saying something about somebody said to him, your children are brats. And so she's taken aback for a minute and then she said, okay, well, I'm okay with my children being brats. This is the way, whatever. And I suggested, and I left a note in the comments there, that's a great opportunity to say, geez, thank you for sharing that to whomever said that. Would you mind telling me a little bit more about it? So you're acknowledging, you're being open. Remember, you assigned whatever the person meant when you said the brats, you made it mean something. So, and you can agree or not, you're just open to learning and more. And you might find, number one, it wasn't what you thought it was. And number two, there might be things that can be changing and just strengthening the relationship.
Yeah, I love that, because when we had talked about that off camera or off, well, I guess online, whatever we did, we talked about it at one point in time, and you encouraged me and said maybe, the way that my husband and I heard brat was different than this person said it. Maybe, but what they meant by brat was not at all how I perceived it. And I was like, wow, that is so good, because I'm the same way. I use idiot very flippantly. And when my husband first, he was so hurt when I would call him an idiot, but that was language that was used a lot when I was growing up, and we didn't mean anything by it. It was just a word that we used. I didn't actually mean the definition of the word idiot. And so, but in his household, they never used that. It was never, and if somebody ever did use that, they would get in really big trouble, and it was a really big deal. And so we had to establish that from the beginning, that when I say idiot, that's not what I mean. I don't mean what you think idiot means. And so, yeah, you're absolutely right. We assign meanings to a lot of different things, and we have to be an inquiry of what we're assigning the meaning when somebody else is talking.
Yeah, that's great, Andrea. And you know what? I love also to like to say, have fun with it. So I make another suggestion. You know what? Your husband, I forget his name, even though you have this great.
It's okay.
And his name is?
Matthew.
Matthew, right. But you never called. I listened to your thing. You don't call him Matthew. You call him something else.
I call him Mr.
Okay. So anyway, when it comes to something like that, you might have fun. You know what? How about let's look up another word for idiot? So when I feel like saying you're this, so you're about whatever it is, and have fun with it. So you can, even though you both understand each other, you can explore it further. So see how you can have, that's not a tip either, but always see how you can have fun when something comes up.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And so then we went through acknowledgement and appreciation. Now, before offering or speaking something, a contrary opinion or anything, or you know how so many of us like to give advice?
Yes.
So, always ask for permission. I had a thought, or that made me think of something. Would you like me to share it?
Love that. Yeah.
And particularly important, in coaching or sometimes in not coaching, okay,
Mhm.
I noticed something, may I share it?
Yes.
So that's really key. And
And I think that will soften your opinion as well. It's you're almost starting off in a way of saying, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm seeing it. Can I share that with you?"
right,
I love that.
right.
Very.
Now, what I wrote in here is I need to share something with you that might make a difference to me. If it's going to make a difference to you also, or perhaps us, when we talk about it. So keep thing, but it's the asking the permission.
Love that.
And even with your kids, I mean, you're doing
Yeah.
things, being aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another thing. Whenever you want to share an opinion or thought, particularly in a group discussion, you know how people always jump in different things. Say the following to yourself. The point of what I'm about to say is, will what I'm about to say make a difference? So if we're talking about something serious and I'm looking at the sun and I might want to say, hey, you know what? It's a really sunny day. What's happening there? Well, is that going to make it? What was the point of that? Is that going to make a difference in this conversation?
Yes. I love that. And I think that will keep arguments down too.
Right.
I'm thinking between like spouses and even between kids, like parents with kids. I'm thinking of myself with my kids. Yeah. Is what I'm about to say going to make a difference? I love that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I already said this, always be open to learning. That's number 8 on my list. Listen to anything another person says, particularly an action you might take or want to take might have taken with this in mind. Just being open. An acknowledgement again there. Thank you for sharing that. Can you tell me more? And then lastly, the one that you hadn't seen, number 9, is always give full attention to the person you're talking to. No multitasking. I mean, if you're in a group thing and it's important a class, and fine, we can just turn off the camera. But no multitasking. Maintain eye contact. And that's why we discussed the lens here. And be aware of your body language. So if you're slumped over and talking, that's saying something also. By the way, eye contact on mobile phones is a lot easier. Just looking here than looking up.
Yes.
So you can see the side of the eye.
Yes. Yeah.
And now in the days of electronics, especially serious ones, mobile phones go out of sight, silence in serious conversations with do not disturb. Okay, and I have a story that reminded me of that just in the thing. I always am with eye catchers, and we were out at a celebration thing with my son and daughter-in-law, and I noticed a lemon curl on her glass, her wine glass or whatever. And I really liked it, so I took out my camera to take a picture. Now, I was hearing everything she said, but she saw that, and to her, I wasn't paying attention. So now, either I would not do that, or knowing that, I would say, hey, that really, when she paused or something, that image really interested me. Would you mind if I take a picture? Bringing into that. So if you're breaking in any way, ask for permission or just don't do it.
Yeah, I love that you brought in a tip there. It was like the asking permission, because I think, I love that.
So I turned off, so you turn off your phone, do not disturb. And if there's some reason you need to take out your phone, or let's say you're a doctor or something, so keep your phone on vibrate. But, this may be important to your mind. So acknowledge them. And again, in the way it's acknowledging, and just bring out your phone. Did you talk?
I love that. And I wanted to go back to something that you said about maintaining eye contact, because you were kind of going back and forth between technology eye contact and personal eye contact when it's person to person. And something that somebody shared with me, I don't know, about 2 years ago or so, was when you're talking with your kids, to actually get down on their level rather than to look down, at them And, because it looks like you're maintaining eye contact, but you're really not. And so to get down on your knees or whatever it is and to look at them straight on and be able to maintain eye contact, that has really, really helped with our kids, even our 3-year-old, being able to actually get down on their eye contact level.
Yeah, that's great. I'll tell you a funny story about being over that. What a funny.
Yeah.
I was between high school and college. I was a playground leader or something at one point. And in training, they told us when we're telling stories, always stand over the kids, and have them sit. I don't know why it wasn't a power thing, but this little boy looked at me and he said, "I can't." I told him, "I can't. The ground's hot and it goes through my tin can and my dink starts sweating."
Oh my goodness. Kids are so honest. Oh, wow. Yeah, they're so honest. You got to love kids. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Sheila. I really appreciate you being on here today. It's been extremely helpful. And I know that people are going to get such valuable information from your experience. I'll just go ahead and say it. I love that you're 81 and that you're still at this and that you're still serving people. I think that's so important. And not to judge anybody else who's 81 and is doing their own thing, but I just absolutely love what you're doing. And I'm very glad that I got to share this with as many people as I can.
Well, thank you. And I'm sharing you. So you said this will be available on your link, and I will have the download, I'll be able to use on my site. And one of my 2 YouTube channels, if you look at my treasureyourlifenow.com, you'll see the different sites I have, the different YouTube channels, where I've worked with photography, where I've worked with writing. So that's all available. I surprise myself sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's great though. And I do want to encourage everybody to visit treasureyourlifenow.com because that is where you kind of host all of your other stuff, right? Like all your other websites, your YouTube channels, everything where everybody can find you.
Right.
You have a lot of stuff going on. Like you just mentioned the photography. That's a huge thing. I know that you share and that you do, right? You have blogs and articles and stuff on that, correct?
Yeah, that's for 14 years or more. I did Picture to Ponder, and it's now, and anybody that subscribes will also, ask for the tips, will on the link for Treasure Your Life Now, Picture to Ponder. But originally it was Picture to Ponder, and it's photos and self-reflecting queries. And it's
that's amazing.
I was looking on each of my and now I'm doing treasureyourlifenow.com/blog.
Okay.
You look at the search, you want to check anything. I find that if I do a search, I can find quicker than in my computer. So I wanted to do something on being stuck. I just did stuck. And the gallinals the lowercase I show cropped up when I just searched that for that different post. So that's a diversion. Are there questions in the chat, or there's not?
There's some comments over there. I don't see any questions necessarily, but there's several people who have left comments, so I'm really thankful for that. Just some people sharing their stories and stuff. Yeah, somebody said emails are often a good way to communicate clearly. I have had, what does it say? I have had more misunderstandings in emails. And I can imagine emails would be a very big way to have misunderstandings.
So here's a tip on that. I have another set of tips, which people who ask for this, I'll probably give them a link to. Tips for writing when angry. Or tips for getting, And one of the things is if you're angry or upset or not clear, write it all out. Keep it 24 hours and then go back and look at it again.
That's so good. I'm going to do that myself because I do. When I get angry, I end up saying things, so many things I don't mean to say. And again, like that is a mirror back to myself anyways. But yeah, and I end up saying things to my husband or kids or even thinking things about other people. That just, I don't really want that out there, and so if you can have a container to put it in and let it sit and then come back to it, I absolutely love that. And I want to share quick before we go. I do want to share this. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're going to share that last quote.
Yes, because I love it. And someone said, this was by Anne. She said, having been in a place of indecision and viewing your special photos and thoughts made me ponder and change the dialogue. And I love that because a lot of us are, so many of us are, myself included, are just stuck in a dialogue. And she said, I was able to see that my communication was from a place of fear and indecision. And when I changed my focus, I then communicated rather by listening first and thinking with love. I absolutely love that because I think that's so important in today's world because we're so busy. We're just so busy running. And if we're not careful, we can get stuck in that dialogue in our head. And back to the brat thing, I can have judgments on somebody that literally did not mean anything by it whatsoever. It's just a word that they use, you know? And then we start thinking things and then we push that person off, or we go off and talk about them or whatever it is. And it's like, you take that time away from bettering you and focusing on what you should be focusing on anyways. And anyway, I'm rambling here, so I don't want to keep going, but I love that. And there's a couple people who also in the chat have left some really nice things about you and how ways that you've helped them. So I know that people will be able to read that too, which is really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I don't know whether she was in there, but one of my mentors is Julie Jordan Scott. Anybody really into writing, I highly recommend her. And out of things I found like 10 years ago, writings in her class. I did a book. We collaborated. She was very helpful. Kindle book. I have 2 Kindle books, and the one was Writing for Self-Discovery. And I read what she wrote in the foreword. I'll send that to you, which was really amazing. And so then I wrote back, and it reminded me of where she was, I read on Facebook, upset or something. Another one who's very authentic in her presentation on Facebook. And I said, remember, we're mirrors. So when you're down, look at what you wrote about me and see me writing that about you.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. And I also want to let everyone know that you are offering 30-minute discovery session. You call it an exploratory discovery session for anybody who's either listening live or listening to the replay. And you're going to leave a link in the chat where they can schedule that call if they want to.
Right. So I'll have a link in the chat we'll have it's Treasure Your Life, I think, treasureyourlifenow.com/communication-tips. Not going to take you to a page. It's going to take you to an AWeber form that says you want it. You'll have to confirm that you want it. We'll get you on a list. And it will also be sure of getting notified when I announce or set up the 4 classes I talked about, 3 classes. And I don't want to put that in the chat. It's special. I don't want to put that link in the chat.
Okay.
You don't want the tips, but you want to know when I'm having those classes. Just message me in Messenger with your email and I'll add you to my list.
Perfect. That's awesome. All right, Sheila, is there anything else you want to share before we go?
I want to thank you again, Andrea. This has been delightful. You're so much fun. And,
thank you.
You just are a sponge. You're absorbing and you two are sharing. So
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Same to you.
Thank you, everybody who's been here. Thank you in advance for your comments. Thank you for simply being here, for supporting me, and to anyone, thank you all who are watching this in a replay. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila.